Hey, what's up? It's Comic95, the Savior. So for this video, I want to talk to you guys about some of the crazy stuff that happens here in Japan, specifically from a girl's perspective, but I will also share some things that my male friends as well as my male coworkers have experienced. Just generally being a foreigner in Japan, things that your employer can legally say and do, or legally say and do, that would be totally illegal in America and uncalled for. Please excuse the Resident Evil crows outside, but I can't do nothing about that. It's summer in Japan, better than the cicadas. So, anyway, let's get into it. There's no particular order to this. I'm just gonna wing it and say them as they come to mind. So, the very first thing that comes to mind is explicitly commenting on your physical sexual attractiveness. Pretty much every job that I have ever worked at, they have made comments on my appearance. So it can be something as innocent as, oh my god, you're so cute, yeah, kawaii. You know, little things like that, to being like, oh look, you're very sexy. And it's like, huh? Then if that's not enough, you'll also have them go as far as to actually label you as being the cute sensei. I kid you not. You can literally look on the websites of some of these schools and they literally have their teachers written down, myself included, as being kawaii sensei such and such. For men, ikemen sensei, and it's like, this man is not even attractive. Like, for real. It'll be some like middle-aged, balding white guy, but because he has blonde hair and blue eyes, he's hot. And I'll even argue, say the same thing that goes for me. Like, it's just a matter of looking exotic, aka you don't look Asian, thus you're attractive. Which is really an insult to their own people. But that's all a whole nother story, and I ain't gonna get there with you guys. I'm simply explaining, or go there with you guys, I'm simply explaining the weird stuff that happens here. So at first it's flattering, it's cute, but then when you take a step back, you're like, you're my employer. This isn't a dating show. It's kind of inappropriate for you to be commenting on things like my chest, commenting on, you know, just my appearance, period. No, I have not had an employer, thank God, comment on that, but I have had employers look, and they might as well had. I have had students, but that's another story. Anyway, beyond just calling you cute or whatever, which, again, imagine if you were in America and your employer said, oh, look, you're really attractive, you're really cute. You must get all the guys. That would kind of creep you out, wouldn't it? Or imagine if you're a guy, and I know that guys are nasty, you guys are gonna be like, oh, like, I like that, because I hear guys, and even read comments from guys talking about how they wish that, you know, they had that type of teacher. Like when I read articles about, you know, like on Fox News, like a teacher having sex with a student or whatever, and then like a man will be like, oh, like, you know, I wish I had a teacher like that. But hear me out. Imagine if you're a guy, and your interviewer says, oh wow, like, you're a really tall, handsome man. Are you married? Oh, you're not, you're single. That's kind of creepy, like, is that not? And so, you have pretty much the same experience in Japan. Like, they're like, you're not married. Oh my god, like, you're so handsome. Or for girls, oh, like, oh, but you're still young. You're so beautiful, you're so pretty. Oh, all the Japanese guys must like you. And it's like, okay, like, am I here to teach kids, or am I auditioning for porn? Like, what's going on? So, anyway, off of that, the next issue that I have is they will openly ask you to do sexist stuff. For example, only women are expected to do things like pour tea, coffee, as well as vacuum and clean up after lunch. They will never in 1,000 years allow a male worker to touch that broom or vacuum after lunch or grab a washcloth. Now, of course, I have seen it happen before, but for the most part, if your school is being run by Japanese staff, especially if they're older, no, that is an automatic female task. It'll happen every once in a while that a guy chooses to help, but they expect that the women will do things like water plants, you will serve coffee and tea to any guests that come, and you will also clean up behind the students. That is not something that guys do. Same thing goes for tasks such as changing diapers. Now again, this all depends on the school or the company, but in general, this is how it goes. This is a woman's job in Japan, and don't even get me started on the cooking aspect. But as you can imagine, yes, basically anything that deals with house, care, work, feminine type things, women are expected to do this even in the workplace. And if a guy tries to help out, they will generally try to find other work for him to do so that they don't have to explicitly say, hey, that's a chick-only job. Instead, what they'll do is, they see that my coworker is trying to help me out. Oh, we'll make up a name. Tim, can you help us make, fax such and such school? I think the printer is having problems, the copy machine. They'll make up some type of excuse to pull that teacher away so that it's just you over there. So it's just really weird, really sexist, really strange, but that's Japan for you. Other things that you guys probably are already aware of, this is not something that applies for most teachers in Japan, but if you are working at a different type of company, because foreigners can have these jobs too, generally women are expected to wear makeup and pantyhose, and you have to wear a skirt and heels. Now, it's not as bad as you're thinking. They're work-appropriate heels, which in other words means chunky heels that are about 1 to 2 inches high. And on top of that, as far as the pantyhose go, they're nude colored, and obviously you have to shave your legs because nobody wants to see your hair sticking through them, which again, who wants to wear a skirt year-round? And on top of that, as far as the makeup goes, it's natural looking makeup. For example, something similar to myself, something where there's not anything crazy going on, where it looks natural, but the most unnatural thing about your look is essentially that you are wearing some type of, I don't know, maybe eyeliner you might choose to wear, but that's about it. Otherwise, you're literally just covering up flaws on your face. But still, imagine if your job required you to wear makeup and require you to wear a skirt and require you to do all of these things, whereas your male counterparts do not. Now, of course, men still have to wear a suit, but they're not required to wear makeup. They don't have to wear skirts. They don't have to wear heels, etc. I ain't finna get into that whole war with you guys, but it's most certainly not the same thing. I am okay with women having to wear business suits, but I think they should have the option between wearing a skirt and they're wearing pants. And as far as heels go, why can't they just wear flats? You've probably seen the whole kutu movement thing. But again, this doesn't apply for most foreigners. Most foreigners here in Japan, like myself, are not required to wear heels and or makeup. I am encouraged to wear makeup on one of my jobs, but I am not forced to wear anything else other than that. I will say that makeup kind of helps finish off and polish over your look, but I do not think anyone should ever be forced to wear it. As a woman, it personally makes me feel better about myself knowing that my flaws are covered, but again, I do not support forcing everyone to get on board and do that. Not everyone has bad skin like me, not everyone feels that way, and not everyone should be forced to do anything that they kind of don't have to, so to speak. So, again, something that would be totally illegal, lawsuit worthy in America, but totally legal and cool in Japan. So, off of that, another very common thing is, you've probably heard about the whole overtime thing in Japan. Well, another really sneaky thing that they do, since overtime doesn't normally apply to us teachers, it is technically overtime but in a different way. A very common thing for schools to do is, they will have you work on holidays or special days in which you don't get paid, but you basically sign up for it and agree for it in advance, or agree to it. For example, you might be expected to stay and work on a Saturday or even a Sunday on occasion, in which you'll basically be working a 6-day week without any additional pay to help cover any type of special event that they have. Beyond just that, you are generally also expected to arrive to work anywhere from about 30 minutes, really it's more like 20 minutes, to as much as an hour early or staying an hour after work. Generally, this does not get added on as extra pay. It's just expected, and it becomes either a part of your contract or it's an unwritten rule that was a part of your contract. For example, most jobs might say that you start working, if you're working at an international school, so you have an all-day job, your job might not actually start until 9:30, but your employer might say that you're required to get there about 20 minutes early. Well, if you're required to get there 20 minutes early, to be honest, you should kind of be getting paid for those 20 minutes. Naturally, you should come to work early and ahead of time so that you're not late. Because if you're a teacher and you're getting there at exactly 9:30, now you're cheating the school, because there's no way that you could take off your shoes, take off your bag, and be ready to teach within a couple of minutes. You need time to prepare. So it goes both ways. It can kind of play devil's advocate, but again, it's kind of illegal. Imagine if you're working for Walmart and Walmart has you scheduled to work starting at 2 o'clock, and they tell you, oh, you need to get to work 20 minutes early, and they want you to start work during those 20 minutes. So you're not just coming there and chilling out. They expect you to start doing work 20 minutes beforehand. So that's kind of a dirty and illegal practice if you ask me. But again, that one's a little bit more debatable, whatever. It varies. Can't really say my true feelings on it. But yeah, it doesn't make me feel very comfortable, to say the least. And to add on to this, another thing dealing with looks is in Japan, you're required to send a self photograph or whatever profile picture of yourself attached with your resume. That's a very scary thing. So imagine if in the US you did not just check a box saying, what race or ethnicity you are, but you had to send an actual photograph showing them what you look like. Now, don't get me wrong, we can play devil's advocate here. The reality is your employer is going to interview with you if they're interested in your resume, and they can go based off of seeing you in person to decide whether or not they don't want to hire you. I can tell you guys a very quick story about my mother. My mother applied for a job years ago. If I recall, it was at the Sears Tower, back when she was around my age. And she was declined the job, but only after she actually went there for the job. They were telling her that they had a position open, that they were hiring, and when they actually saw her face to face and she brought her resume in, they claimed that there was no position and said they would keep her application on file. And as soon as she turned around and left, she literally saw the woman throwing away her application into the trash can, simply because she thought that my mom was going to be black. She sounded black over the phone, but after seeing her, not black, you know what I mean, she thought she was going to be white. But after seeing her in person, it was like, oh, they changed their mind. And so I've even had experiences like that before. Back when I was a pharmacy technician, I was the only person in my entire company that was black. They were all white. And I could tell that my employer was shocked when I came in for the interview because my name sounds white. And when she got my resume, my last name is German, by the way. My dad is actually part German, but we ain't finna get into that. When they saw my resume and they pieced together, and it's like, ah. But of course, because I'm black, I actually kind of helped them in a way because they have to meet certain quotas or whatever with having interviewed a specific amount of people of color to prove that they've given a fair amount of chances. A lot of people get this mixed up and think, oh, places are required to hire, I think it's 10% or 15% of their company has to be black. No, you simply have to interview this percentage to prove that you're giving a fair chance, but you don't have to actually hire. So I'm not saying that's the reason why it was done. I just thought it was kind of weird, but of course I did get that job. That's another story. We'll talk about that later. But my point is, I don't like the process of doing this because, for starts, you're giving out your picture to places that haven't even promised you a job, along with all of your personal information on your resume, just to either not get a call back, or you could be dealing with a creepy employer. People can stalk you, take your personal information. I've had people call me and text me or whatever, send inappropriate stuff. Like after the interview, that was unnecessary. Like I've literally been invited to go out for dinner for my boss's birthday or whatever, like alone, not with other coworkers. And we ain't finna get into that. I'll talk about that to you guys later in another storytime video. But let's just say I didn't last at that company very long. Anyway, very inappropriate. And then think about it, if you're religious. So let's say that you're, a Muslim. Okay, if you wear, a scarf or anything like that, well, now they can see, your religion, because more than likely your profile picture is going to be of you, wearing a headscarf. You're not, just going to have your hair out more than likely. But again, I know my family's Islamic, you guys. I don't need you guys to school me on what people do. I know that some people choose to wear, some people don't, but you get what I mean. I forgot what it's called. The name slipped my mind. But not everybody wears that, what is called a scarf. Yeah, like that gives that away. I don't like it because it also can go based off of your looks. Of course, a teacher or a person, no matter what the job is, that's more attractive is going to get chosen over someone that's not attractive. Now that we're looking at not just resumes, we're looking at your appearance too. So now you can actually put, a face with the resume without even seeing the person in person. Now, of course, these are Photoshop glorified pictures of you, and they have kiosks all over Japan that are specifically made for you to take these pictures to paste onto your resume. But the problem with all of this is basically if you're not seen as attractive in your employer's eyes, you're probably either not going to get a call back or you're going to struggle too. So it's not to say that you can't get a job. I work with people that are plus size, heavy set, ugly, bald headed, dark skin, whatever, all of it. I've worked with them all, tall, short, dark, light, doesn't matter what color they are. I've worked with all different kinds of people So you can get a job here, do not get me wrong, but I most certainly will say that it does hurt your chances, because now a lot of people aren't going to do things the right way. Instead, they're going to make it a beauty contest and choose the best looking applicant versus the most qualified. The next thing that comes to mind is vacation days aren't really a given and or guaranteed to you. In general, your vacation days, which a lot of jobs or companies in the US do as well, they do not roll over into the next year. So whatever you don't use, you lose. And beyond just that, a lot of employers, to stop you from losing them, they will force you to take vacation at certain times of year. So you might say, oh, that's nice, right? Well, wrong. They not only force you to take vacation at certain times of the year, they turn down any request to take vacation outside of these times of the year. So in general, your job, not all jobs, but some, they may have already decided when you can go on vacation, and thus they will only approve a vacation time during that time. They may even force or try to bribe you into taking vacation at a certain time of year. For example, I've worked at places that have had a designated time for teachers to take vacation depending on what grade they were teaching. So for example, if you were teaching, children that are in high school and you're working in an international school that goes from kindergarten to high school teachers have to take their vacation, during July. Whereas for teachers that are, teaching kindergarten, you have to take your vacation, in December or something like that. So it's like, okay, what if I didn't want to take my vacation during this time? So you don't get a choice. So another sketchy practice that schools tend to have is punishing you for being late and or, absent. So for example, if you have missed work or if you're, coming in late to work, whether it be one time, twice, whatever, they might actually cut back on your pay. So when you sign your contract, you probably, if you actually read the whole thing, there's probably an area there in which it basically said, if you come in late for work, whether it be, it might say once or after the second time, they reduce you back to training salary for anywhere from 30 to 90 days, just by you doing that once. Again, every school has different rules. Not all companies have this. Only some do. So I'm not trying to scare you. But again, this is something that would be considered as illegal. Imagine if, once again, you worked a job at Walmart, and if you came in late for work, Walmart not only, deducted that hour salary because you were late, but now for the next 90 days, you'll go back to getting, $7 an hour or whatever the case might be. That's kind of not legal, kind of not fair, but that's the way that it goes. The next sketchy thing is most schools, and this one is for most schools, you're required to open up a specific bank account in order to work there so that they can deposit your money. So it's really weird. Japan does do direct deposit, but using cash cards are not a very common and or popular choice of payment here. So it's really weird and stupid. Basically, banks here are mainly just to hold your money and to allow you to have access to it no matter where you are without it physically being in your wallet. Savings programs here generally kind of suck. And again, there aren't a lot of real credit card options in Japan. So, with all of that said, you generally have to open up a specific bank account in order to receive your pay. Now, most employers will be nice and they'll withdraw the money for a month or two, but after that, nope. You need to get a bank account with their bank because it saves them money and makes it easier for them to transfer to you, which is totally wrong. Imagine if your company forced you to sign up for direct deposit, and imagine if not only did you have to forcefully sign up for direct deposit and had no option for a cash check, which you don't have in Japan, imagine them also saying, oh, if you want to work for us, you have to get an account with JP Chase. That's kind of unfair. But again, totally legal, totally cool to do in Japan. And some of the stuff isn't entirely legal, you guys, but they get away with it, so it might as well be. The next thing that we've kind of already talked about, but that's kind of a twofold situation dealing with vacation, is maternity leave. So it's pretty much standard practice that if you get married, and especially if you get pregnant in Japan, that you will not return to your job. And if they do allow you to return, they will give you hell. Generally, they try to force you to quit the job before, you actually go on your leave, which is why a lot of women try to keep their pregnancy a secret. But if you do, make it known, you request a formal leave, they pretty much send you off and they don't expect you to come back. And if you try to come back, they will give you so much work and make your job so much of a nightmare that you will choose to quit on your own, or you'll do such a poor job performing all the tasks that you will basically get fired. And this is something that used to happen in the US, but Japan has done very little to combat this. So most women simply choose not to go back to work because it's either impossible to do it because of their personal circumstances at home, or because their employer pretty much made it where they can't. This is also why this is a common question that is asked, an inappropriate question, when you are, looking for a job. They will generally ask if you have children, about, if you plan on getting married, pregnant, whatever the case is. And it's not to try to get to know you, it's because they're trying to X you out. So if you're a woman and you're young, they kind of prefer you because like, oh, you have so many years ahead of you. Because in Japan, the thought of getting married and having kids before 30 is like, what? Like, who gets married before 30? And especially having kids. But really what they're doing is they're trying to avoid teachers that are, close to that age where they're thinking about settling down and starting a family. So it is a little bit harder to find a job if you've recently gotten married or if you're in your, early 30s versus if you're in your early 20s and or late 30s. They assume that you're more stable. The other issue with hiring women, I'm speaking from a Japan standard, you guys. I'm a woman. I'm not saying that this is bad. I'm saying how the employer sees it. They also don't want to hire women because, of course, if you have children, if your kid gets sick, you have to call off work or whatever the case is. You're just seen as a problematic employee, and thus they don't want to hire you. The same thing can kind of be said for men. Men, unfortunately, have the opposite situation. You are encouraged to not take your paternity leave, even although it does exist. And beyond just that, getting off the subject with dealing with children, you are also encouraged to not take vacation, whether you're a man or a woman. So, in Japan, when you take vacation time, you pretty much make your workload get pushed off onto everyone in the company. And thus your, coworkers become somewhat angry at you for making their job harder. So this way, they guilt trip you into not using your vacation time and basically letting it go to waste. This would never work in the US, but Japanese people have a very different mindset. So in America, we'd be like, fuck them, they better figure out how they're gonna get this work done on their own. Not my problem, I'm on vacation. But in Japan, it's like, oh my god, my senpai, they won't have anyone to do, my dirty work for them. No, I can't call off. They would rather die of cancer working for their one job for their entire life, I kid you not, than to quit and choose another company that would treat them better, pay them more, force them to take vacation days. They will not. They most certainly will not let their coworkers down. And by let them down, that means generally they will continuously work until their boss forces them to take time off. Which by law, they're required to, I think, take at least 3 days off a year that are not holidays. So, yeah, it's really crazy. But again, borderline illegal, technically legal. This is what Japan does. And the next and possibly last thing that I can think of at the moment, mind you, there's so much more and I might add more to the comments and I hope that you will too, is that there's a lot of cover-ups that go on in the Japanese workplace. So whether you're working as a teacher at an international school or at an actual company, there's a lot of crap that if the public knew, the place would get shut down or people would stop going there, etc. For example, international schools, they do a lot of dirty stuff. It's very common for them to feed kids food that fell on the floor. They do not clean off surfaces after changing diapers. They don't wear gloves. They change diapers back to back. And unfortunately, a lot of the foreign staff don't seem to see a problem with it because they're like, oh yeah, we'll just grab one, change them as we go. We don't have like a whole hour where we just change diapers. And it's like, yeah, I get it. It's convenient for you, but that's kind of nasty. And I don't know the laws on this in Japan, but in both America and in the UK, it's illegal to not wear gloves when changing diapers. And not only are you supposed to wear gloves, you're supposed to clean down the surface, wear a pair of gloves, and then after you're done changing that child, you're supposed to clean down the changing surface again, wash your hands, wear another pair of gloves. So if nothing else, you're supposed to be washing your hands in between each child and cleaning the surface in between each child. They not only not clean down the surface before or after, but they also do not wear gloves. There's not even gloves there, and there's generally no cleaning spray there. And whenever I've requested this, they look at me like I'm crazy because they've had male teachers that have literally been like holding their nose while changing the kids' diapers and asking if they can wear a mask. And it's like, what? Like, I know who doesn't have children. And I don't even have kids, you guys, but I mean, like, come on, you're that immature. So I get it, kids crap stinks. I know you want to wear it, but you're at work, be professional. You signed up to work at preschoolers. But anyway, Beyond just with diaper changing stuff, when accidents take place, they do not tell parents. For example, there have been nosebleeds, kids hidden, scratching, fighting each other, and they will instead try to work it out at the school and not get the parents involved because they don't want to deal with that type of conflict. They're worried about a child leaving. If they notice that a child is showing signs of, having a disability or, being autistic or whatever, nope, they won't say anything. They'll cover it up. They don't want the parents to know. They don't want to potentially risk, ruffling any feathers. This goes for a lot of different stuff. If they notice that the company is doing bad and, things are going under, or they messed up with someone's finances, they will not say a word. Of course, there's dirty and sketchy companies like this in America too, but if they get found out, you'll pretty much be in trouble. In Japan, it's just common knowledge that you as a company, you keep company stuff in the company, just like with family stuff. If you've ever been in a situation where you've hurt your neighbors dealing with domestic violence or whatever, if you call the police, they don't care. They will either not show up, or they'll show up and they'll tell you, like, look, unless this woman calls the police herself, we can't get involved. It's not our business. They don't care if a kid is getting beat, strangled, whatever. If the police don't see it, it did not happen. And that's exactly what it's like here in Japan when you're working. So it's really sad, really messed up, really crazy, but that's Japan for you. So that's that. This list can go on and on forever. These are the main things that stand out to me. The biggest ones being the fact that, there's this weird sexualized worker type thing where it's totally okay to talk about your physical appearance. It can definitely get you jobs here. Beyond just their openness with complimenting your appearance and making you uncomfortable, is that, they can bully you out of your work legally. If, you're pregnant and or if you've given birth and you have a child now, they don't care. And they expect women to do all of the dirty house-like work, not in a joking way, but like legitimately. And they don't see anything wrong with that. And the women don't either. They're just so conditioned and used to it. Like, they'll laugh it off if you comment on it. They're like, oh yeah, that's not really unfair. And it's not because they agree with you. It's because they're Japanese. And they would rather agree and say, oh yeah, I don't think it's fair. Yeah, I agree. Because they don't want to go back and forth with you. They don't like confrontation. But for them, it's like, what's wrong with cleaning? I love pouring tea. So I think those are the craziest things. Of course, there's other issues like with the vacation thing. Like, imagine being afraid to take vacation days. We're busy fighting for more days. And here we are in Japan, whether they're working retail or working a real, career, office job, whatever, they're afraid to use their vacation days because they're afraid it'll hurt their, whatever with their coworkers. Oh, and my very last thing that I should throw in that you guys already know about, sorry you guys, turning down invites to stuff, so such as karaoke, going to the bar, a host club, even if you're married, so going to the strip club, host club, whatever, it'll hurt your relationship with your coworkers. And when it comes to promotion, you're pretty much going to get looked over. So, look at all this crazy stuff they have here. That would be totally illegal in Japan. Totally illegal in America. I'm thinking of more, you guys. It's totally legal to bribe people with money and food. So, for example, this is a Japanese thing, not something for foreigners. But my boyfriend's job is literally to go out to eat with customers, get them drunk, well fed, and then close deals with them. And he makes commissions off of this. It's a sales job. Imagine if that's how sales jobs went in the US. You take your customer out for dinner, you get them drunk at a karaoke bar, you say, hey, so how about signing up for that $10,000 tractor? And they're like, oh yeah, sure, I love you, man. All of a sudden, you get, a $1,000, cut out of that. It's like, what? So, it's crazy. So that's that. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe if you have not already. Other than that, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and I have a Snapchat and a Facebook page as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you will watch another video. If you have anything else that you would like to leave down below and add to this list, please do so. I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff. As you saw, I came up with stuff at the last minute of trying to record this, things that I totally forgot. But there's literally an endless list of weird and crazy stuff that you can legally do in Japan as an employer, and crazy expectations that they have for their workers, from overtime to not taking vacation time to staying hush-hush about company issues. And again, of course, some of these things kind of overlap in the US, but in Japan, it's actually legal here. So that's that. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.